Our employment needs continue to evolve as new technology makes some of our traditional jobs obsolete. But new technology also creates many new job opportunities, some of which have never been envisioned before. I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned and hear what insights our guest can share with us. Our guest, Dr. Tracy Weiland, is the author of 11 books. She's a global speaker and media contributor on the impact of technology on work, careers, and women's leadership. Her latest book is titled Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what are the trends that you're watching right now for employment opportunities?
Well, Grace, this year I'm watching 5 trends. Aging as a job creator, security, different technologies, skilled labor, and also micro businesses. So those are the big 5 for 2016.
Now, you had used the term previously about having a senior moment. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, just the fact that we're aging here in the United States and globally, it's creating jobs. In fact, it's a senior sensation. Jobs created $7.1 trillion globally just by the fact that we're older. In the United States, 1 out of 3 people are over the age of 50. That's 100 million people.
That's a lot of people.
And these people are, live life and do things, and that creates jobs. So to me, it's a very exciting area to look at.
So what are some of these jobs that the aging population is creating?
Well, first just look at where people live, right? So everybody needs a place to live. Well, as we age, we have a lot of choices that we make. We may choose to stay home, and many do, and are retrofitting and redecorating their homes for retirement and past retirement, as well as people are going to adult communities. There's 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus, and there's high demand for these communities. And then you also have the community retirement. Once you hit a certain age, you may not medically feel well, and then you may want to go on to a community retirement center. And so all of this just drives demand. In fact, there's shortages today. I visited a community senior center, and there was a 5-year shortage.
Is that right?
So all of this creates jobs because you need people, right? Some of these are run like hotels. Some of these, think about the services, the landscaping, the health aides. So there's so much support infrastructure just in a lot of this adult living.
So that's a big demand that isn't really being met completely right now.
Well, it's a job growth area, and it's certainly as we live longer, this will just continue to increase, and more communities will be built, or more retirement facilities will be built, or more choices that seniors will make to live at home and bring in services.
And of course, healthcare is becoming a bigger issue as we get older.
Sure. So, just think about, we can replace all our body parts and, with medical assistance, but we need occupational therapists, we need physical therapists, we need nurses, we need home health aides. There's a whole variety. Just think about your eyesight, think about your hearing. All of this, as it changes as we age, we need more services to support it. And so vision, right, eye photographers or audiologists for hearing help, or CT scans or MRIs. So all of this is creating a lot of jobs in the healthcare industry.
So are more medical students going into these fields like geriatrics and all the other fields pertaining to the aging population?
Well, there's certainly more options today. So I would say to students, if you're looking towards the future, aging is an area that's creating a lot of jobs. And healthcare is one of these areas, and you can specialize in something like geriatrics or something for someone who's older. And I think that's a great area if you want to get into it and do something different.
And also, retired people have more time to travel. does this impact the job market?
It does. In fact, the AARP, the Association for Retired Persons, had a large study done, and they found that retirees actually are driving the travel industry about 36% over the next 10 years. And actually, they're traveling not only domestically, but also abroad. And what they found is they actually spend more money than people who are working.
Oh, is that right?
So, you could say that retirees are traveling, and by doing that, they're creating jobs. Because if you think about it, airlines, buses, cruise lines, hotels, tourism services, restaurants, everything to support the whole idea of someone taking a trip. And all of this just trickles down to jobs in a variety of areas.
Now, do older people require different accommodations than younger travelers?
Well, I would say that each traveler makes different choices on what kinds of ways they want to travel. So the group travel, the cruise line travel, the riverboat travel is often highlighted, the bus tour travel as more of a preference for people in certain age brackets. Not to say that that's the only choice.
And I've also heard that pet ownership is a benefit, especially for seniors. Are there seniors becoming more pet owners, and does this generate more jobs?
Yeah, so interesting. We always associate pet ownership with the millennial, the younger generation, and they do own pets. But there was a study done saying that actually our plus 55 were responsible for over half the pet owners.
Is that right?
Over the last years, because as the nest empties, they're still very active and want to do something, and maybe they don't want kids and grandkids to come over, but maybe they want a companion. And so pet ownership. And if you think about that, creates jobs, because pets need services too. They need vets, they need food, they need groomers, they need housing when you travel, they need a variety of services, toys, to be able to support pets. So pets, as it grows and the ownership grows, will also create jobs.
So that's a booming industry, it sounds like.
Well, not only do we have millennials now, but we also have the baby boomers owning pets. And so that has just increased the demand for pets and the services surrounding pets.
The pets have taken over as the babies of the house. Now, can you think of any other job opportunities that aging population has created?
Yes, I think aging will create ways for people, particularly people who are seasoned and experienced, to reinvent themselves. So let me give you some examples. I met a real estate agent. She it's high demand, very competitive, and she reinvented herself as a real estate agent, focusing on real estate for retirees and options. Right, where when a retiree says, "Where do I want to go if I don't want to stay at home?" I met a financial planner, gentleman who said, very competitive field. He reinvented himself to be a financial planner for people retiring. How do you plan out your funds? And then I met actually a personal trainer, a young guy in LA. He said, very competitive. He reinvented himself to be a personal trainer for people with Parkinson's disease. Oh. And he said he's actually in very high demand because now he's getting more certifications in personal training, because people, 50, 60 plus are looking for occupational trainers, physical therapists, but also personal trainers.
Oh, that's great, because that's going to keep people young.
Well, it is, and I think it is. What intrigued me is all of these people had experience, and they were reinventing themselves in the aging segment. And let's face it, it's age appropriate too. So, if you're in your 50s and you want to reinvent yourself, I would look at the aging population as a segment that you could, turn to for a specialization.
Absolutely. When talking about job opportunities, I know that you've said in the past that security is a safe bet. Tell us more about this area.
Yes, and I say that sadly. Sadly, security is a safe bet in an area of job creation. We have three areas that I look at: cybersecurity, physical security, and counterterrorism. Now, last year, cybersecurity was a big growth driver because we had so many cyber attacks on people's identities. And I remember Sony was a big deal. In fact, they dedicated a whole magazine on how that happened and how do we protect ourselves. But this year, the buzz, this past year has all been about terrorism and counterterrorism. And in fact, some cities are actually creating terrorism squads. And it's not just physical, it's people who can understand bomb, hacking, chemical, anything associated with terrorism. And I think that kind of squad mentality will probably replicate throughout the United States. And these are brand new jobs that we had never had to really need before, now that we need to have.
Well, recent polls have definitely, said to us that the American public is very, very concerned about terrorism.
Very concerned, which brings into security on the physical side. So not only do we have jobs growing in physical security for like public sector, police, transportation, airports, events, marathons, Super Bowl, right, really beefing up. But now we also have private security. Individuals are saying, I want to have more security guards at my access for my private events as well. So just in itself, that's building too.
Now, you've mentioned cybersecurity, and still we seem to be lagging way behind.
Yes, in fact, there was a study by Cisco Systems that said that there were globally 1 million jobs open, unfulfilled on cybersecurity.
1 million jobs.
Yes, and the government, right, keeps talking about how they need talent to come into the U.S. government right on cybersecurity. So this is a growing demand. If you have the wherewithal and the interest, there are a variety of jobs in cybersecurity in all, whether it's public sector or private sector.
Now, in our high-tech world, especially where we live here in Silicon Valley, new job opportunities appear that we haven't imagined a short time ago. What are some of these new fangled type of jobs?
Well, I look at what's new each year. And so for this year, I look at virtual reality and augmented virtual reality. Drones and robotics, everything from, delivering packages to autonomous cars. And then, of course, the immersive technologies. There's a whole new segment being created through immersive technologies called esports, where people actually go to stadiums to watch people play games online.
Oh.
And immersive technology. In fact, I was in Las Vegas, and they were saying this will be the next wave of gambling. It's pretty exciting because you're watching people play these immersive games with each other. And you're going to have teams, you're going to have sponsorships, you're going to have endorsements. It's just instead of physical, it's now virtual.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. And of course, autonomous cars here in the Bay Area, I think everyone has seen at least the Google car driving around where people aren't in the front seat, but they're rather in the back seat.
Right.
And that's the whole evolution of robotics. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunities, not only here, but also in the auto industry. Ford and GM are both getting heavily into autonomous cars as well.
Well, some people are saying that, well, with the autonomous cars, it's going to take away the people who drive for a living.
Well, you know what? There's so much shortages of drivers right now that I don't, to me, it's almost like a benefit. And you'll need more people to be able to understand how to repair these cars, service these cars, and, program these cars. So, technology in itself can create ecosystems of other jobs.
And in spite of these state-of-the-art kind of jobs, there's still a demand for blue-collar and skilled workers. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and just think about infrastructure. So if I was to start with locally, right, what kind of infrastructure do we have in the house, right? Even though we live in a high-tech world, we still need plumbers. We still need electricians, right? We still need people to come and fix our roofs, and air conditioners, and heaters.
Right.
And so that whole area is still creates jobs. Those jobs do not go away.
So what are some of the key areas of growth for skilled workers?
So where the money is, in fact, Forbes did a big study on this, is again with the infrastructure on the larger scale. So think about your towns, your cities, your states. airports, dams, roadways, major power facilities. All of this requires people, and as it gets more sophisticated, it will require people who are even more skilled. So the skilled worker will never go away. It might evolve a little bit, but it is an area. In fact, there were many saying to millennials, if you have a hard time getting a job, there's nothing wrong with going out and getting a great skill.
Right, exactly.
And doing this for a while.
It seems that these occupations are predominantly performed by men. What are some of the barriers that women have to overcome to get into these fields? It seems like, this problem has existed forever.
Well, it's a good point that you bring up. I was talking to the head of a very large trucking company, and she, as the CEO of the company, was saying it is hard to attract women in the trucking industry. One, because they have families and some of these trucking rides are long haul, so they're trying to make adjusted schedules and do more spoke and wheel. Two is the physical aspect. Overnight trucks, a lot of truckers have to sleep at truck stops, and there's a security issue. And so, some of the areas that they're trying to do is either pairing them up with husband and wife teams, have shorter rides, or be more family friendly to really truck drivers in general because there's such a demand. On the physical side, what I look forward to is really the advent of robotics and technology. If you look in a lot of the warehouses today, it's all push button now with robotics. So you don't need that physical strength. And I think in the past, that's always what separated jobs between male and females. But today, so many of these jobs are really computerized. And so really anyone of any size can really operate it. So I think that's a more positive motive. Now it's just getting people interested in doing these jobs, which maybe they hadn't been geared to be interested in the past.
And how can we motivate women and younger teenagers to become interested in these jobs?
So I'm a big fan of role models, showing young people, other people who are doing really fun, cool jobs, and having exciting lives too. To me, it's when a child or a young person sees someone doing something exciting and they understand the roadmap, they get excited about it because they can see themselves in the role.
Now, I understand there's a TV show called Blue Collar Millionaires. Can you tell me about this show? I've never seen it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of mine who's actually from the Midwest, and he owns his own company for many years, is in trucking and roofing. And he started off as a blue-collar worker and was very inspired by Shark Tank and the entrepreneurism and the fact that people were making a lot of money. And he said, you know what, there's no reason why people who are blue-collar workers should be in hourly jobs, right? We can make money too and become entrepreneurs as well. So he saw this show called Blue Collar Millionaires. And it's a great show because it's people who are solving problems for other people on a large scale. Could be from redoing someone's roof to sanitation, right, to plumbing. But they've made it into a business. And I think the point there is that if you're in the blue collar world, you don't have to be in an hourly job or in like a public sector job only. You can evolve if you have business sense and financial skills, you can evolve this into a business. And that's exactly what this show does, is showcase people who make a lot of money doing things like collecting junk or dumping manure or, doing people's, things that people don't want to do.
So they're becoming millionaires doing this?
Yes, and in fact, the show actually highlights their lifestyles and how many exorbitant, cars, expensive cars they own, the trips they take, the enormous first homes, vacation homes that they have. But what they walk through is the simplicity of solving a problem that somebody didn't want to do. In fact, I heard about a woman here in the Bay Area who bought into the franchise Got Junk. You probably see the trucks all over the road. She bought into it when it was very small as a franchise, and now she owns quite a few and is multimillionaire over. And what is Got Junk? It's trucks that come around that pick up your junk, and you pay people to haul your junk away and bring it to the dumps.
And then they use some of this junk, maybe?
No, it's junk that you bring, like you know when you need to bring it to the dump.
Oh, okay. So they're just hauling it away for you.
They're just hauling it away. There's a whole industry
really
on just away people's junk. And
you can become a millionaire doing that?
And you can. Right? You can buy into franchises. You can. This woman started in was very small. Now it's a very actually expensive franchise. So again, it's a trend, and that's what I encourage people to start to read the news and watch the trends in your neighborhood and area, and look at that, because this in itself can become an income generator.
So do you think this is inspiring people?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that especially now with our younger generations who have seen Shark Tank and all of these shows, they have seen people in Silicon Valley start businesses, startups in their 20s and 30s become successful. They realize that the corporate world is not the only path anymore, and that they can actually create something or solve a problem for someone else and actually make an income out of it.
So do you think a lot of millennials are going this direction?
So the millennials have created that, and then the next generation, which is Generation Z, which is the 20 and under, have also grown up and now observing not only their parents lose jobs in the corporate world, their millennial siblings not being able to get jobs, even with college degrees, and they're saying that as pragmatically, I really do need to start working younger and figuring this out, and they are very inspired by entrepreneurism.
Now, I've also heard of the term microprenuers. What exactly does that mean?
So a micropreneur would be up to 5 people. A micropreneur is really just a micro business person, someone who's independently started a business. And a lot of people are doing this today on eBay, for example, creating whole businesses of selling things, or marketplaces like Zazzle, where you can go and do business card sales. So a lot, or Etsy, where you might be a quilter,
right,
or you might be a candle maker. And this is just micro entrepreneurship. What's different today is because we have the internet, we have these marketplaces, and we can go out and freelance and create businesses. So micropreneurship is projected to be really half of the businesses in the United States over the next few years.
Really?
And it's really overlooked because large companies hire a lot of people. But remember, all of these large companies started off small. I mean, Google used to be just one person, and Facebook just one person. And so all of the small businesses can eventually grow into large employers in the area. And I think that's what's exciting. And I think people are looking at that saying, I can actually create a business, I can start a business, I can own a business, and I can actually then create jobs. And I think that's an exciting theme, and that's one that we hear a lot in 2016.
You've recently said that franchising is an area that's often overlooked. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, I think franchising is quite interesting because if you're not creative like me and can't think of a business to start, you can already buy into one that exists. And I think when people think of franchising, they think of the big ones, McDonald's and Chipotle, and those are very expensive franchises to buy into.
Right.
But if we just reflect back on the health in the aging, there's so many franchises with home aides, home angels, all kinds of health aides, and occupational therapists, right? A lot of these franchises focusing on services. There's also a number of franchises for in the marketing industry, in really internet marketing. Some of these franchises you can actually buy in at a very low level, some just a couple $100s.
Oh, really?
But, there's always a big but, because people write to me and say, which franchise can I buy into?
Exactly.
Well, here's where you go look. Number one, you can look at Entrepreneur Magazine. They always have a list every year. You can, of course, look at Forbes and Fortune, and you can also look online. But you vet it. You got to vet it, right? Because there's a lot of criteria. Just think about you're taking over a business.
Right.
So the owners want to make sure that you have financial lines of credit, that you have savings, that you have knowledge, right? They're not going to run the business for you. You're buying into something that's successful. But we had talked in other shows about young women and have really gotten inspired by franchising. The Phoenix Suites is the hairdressing franchising. There's Core Bar and Pure Bar, a lot of these, physical fitness, and also women in their 40s and 50s who have business skills, have left the workforce, but still want to own a business. And so I think it is an opportunity area for a lot of people, not only who are experienced, but also people who are just not ready to work in the corporation anymore, but still want to do something else, but can't think of what to do.
Tell us more about the different areas of franchising.
So there you have services, right? So I think that's one, is people need services constantly, whether it's landscaping services or health services or home aid services or cleaning services, right? And a lot of these services, by the way, are on demand now too. And so that also creates new franchises or new business opportunities. Can I create an on-demand environment for home health or maids or chefs or food delivery services, right? So all of that. And then you have the whole health and fitness area. There's a lot of gyms or new kinds of health and training. Every year there's something new, whether it's spin or kettlebells
Right.
or bar. And these all start, have franchises that people can just buy into at the local level. And then, of course, there's the food, that started off with the McDonald's. But, you have growing food services. Could be the new yogurt bar, the new salad bar, the new Mexican restaurant, concept, the new food truck concept. And all of these can be franchise opportunities as well.
Well, Tracy, I think our time is up for today, and you've given us a lot of interesting things to think about. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
The Better Part is produced by volunteers at the Cupertino Senior Center. Absolutely no experience is required to join the Better Part. If you would like to look into being a part of our group, please leave a message with the Cupertino Senior Center. It's a lot of fun to be part of a TV show, so check us out. And thank you again for being with us today. And remember to also watch us on YouTube and Roku. See you next time. Bye-bye.